Aloha, and welcome to the Jewelers You Should Know podcast, where you get an insider's look into building, running, and growing a fine jewelry business. I'm your host, Robbie, and I'm the founder of GemTek Jewelry Marketing and Automation, a jeweler-owned marketing agency for local jewelers like us. I grew up in this industry, and my family personally owns 2 local fine jewelry businesses, one in Massachusetts and one in Hawaii. In this episode, we sit down with Kyle Pancis from Pancis Gems, or Gems by Pancis. That's P-A-N-C-I-S. Pancis Gems is a colored diamond supplier to many jewelers around the world, and it was started by Kyle's parents. We talk about diamond sales, business mindset, and the future of the industry, and much more. So I'm here with Kyle Pancis from Pancis Gems, and he and I originally met back in January of 24 at an IJO Next Generation conference. I was a speaker, he was a sponsor. And I just remember immediately feeling this like electricity coming off of this kid. And I was like, who is this guy that has so much energy? He's like so fun.
It's bad. It's
great.
Bad in a good way.
No, I love it, honestly. For me, I was like, oh, finally, someone that I can like that I'm on the same level with. This is great. I don't know, just I think God gives those personalities to certain people, and so it's a cool thing to meet someone else that's like that, because it's like, oh, good, there's no limit here. But
we're in the diamond business, jewelry business. I mean, we're selling luxury goods, we're selling experiences, we're selling celebrations, we're selling all these occasions of life. And again, it's a product that 0 people need in this world, but yet we created an industry that's marketing around this stuff of happiness and celebration. So like to be in this industry with a negative attitude, which unfortunately there's a lot of it in the trade, you'll find it everywhere. It's just sacrilegious. It doesn't do anything good for you. Even when things are tough, like if I have a bad day, I'll literally just shut the door and leave. Like, I'm done. Like tomorrow will be a better day. You know what I mean? That's just how I flow.
Oh yeah, that's really awesome. I mean, I've never heard. That's a cool philosophy. Yeah, because ultimately, you know, I heard recently from going back through some old sales trainings, and I heard recently from someone, it was your customers, no matter what is going on in your day or what your attitude is right now, you need to have a top 11 out of 10 attitude, because that's what your customers deserve every single time. It doesn't mean you can't feel the normal things that you have to feel in life, grief, sadness, pain, anger, things like that. But it means that when you're talking with a client, they do deserve your absolute best attitude you can possibly bring. So I think what you said right there, leaving, coming back when things are better, it makes it's a service to the people that you're working with.
Yeah. And it's like 10 years ago, I'm 11 years in the business. I mean, I wasn't like that then, right? I was always just snowballing the energy and not allowing myself to just separate. And then when I realized obviously, as you get older, you have more success and you have, a little bit more financial stability to just say, okay, I'm leaving for today. That comes with just kind of experience and age in any industry or career you're in. And, I think that was like one of the best things for myself mentally, just, check out. All right, I'm done. This isn't going to work. Wow. And then you come back and you're refreshed and you have energy and you can think clearly again.
Yeah. So I want to get more into your story. Yeah, you said 11 years ago. So, can you bring me up to speed a little bit? How did you get started in the jewelry industry? I know a little bit about your background, your family, all that. Yeah. But how did you get started, and when did you decide? Well, I'll let you start with, your family and that business.
So, where my dad started the business, like he started, flipping diamonds back in 76, right? When he was like in his young 20s, and then incorporated shortly thereafter. And then my mom joined once they started a family, because obviously working corporate job 9 to 5 or whatever, traveling, it was just easier for her to join the business with my father. And then over the course of 20 years, 30 years, they had employees, they had sales reps, they had things to grow the brand, grow the business. And of course, the business always has evolved, as the industry always does. Every 5-10 years, it cycles. Now it's lab, but 20 years ago it was this, then it was that, right? So the business always grew. The one thing that always stuck as a brand for our business was the color diamond business. We've always been in the color. My brother tells a funny story. Back when he was like in grade school, he was in a science class with the teacher, and he said, this was back in like the 90s, and he's like, oh, have you ever heard of a color diamond? And the teacher's like, color diamonds don't exist.
Wow.
Right. And that was because that's how early we were on the whole trend with color, or in that product arrangement. And so it's always a funny deal, like the textbooks in your school
and the teacher
schools don't even talk about colored diamonds, but here we are trying to sell these things. And
Yeah.
obviously, 30 years later, we have an industry that's gotten around it. So,
Yeah.
consumer spending is there and it's a good business. Um, so yeah, my parents started the business. I've always been, I'm like an old soul in the new world. I think there's a song out there that came out last year.
Yeah,
Uh,
I think I know what you're talking about.
so I'm an old soul in a new world, and I just kind of grew up, in a household where everyone was always hardworking. Business was always being discussed at the dinner table because that's just what
Mm.
it is, family business. And I always was a young entrepreneur. I was always hustling in the car world. I had a car detailing service. I had a bicycle at, 13 years old, stuffing mailboxes with a letter to solicit business that I made on my computer and printed here on a color printer. You know what I mean? Like this was my teenage years.
Yeah.
And my dad always said no if I wanted something as a kid, right? Obviously nice birthday gifts. We had good family. Like I had a nice upbringing. But always hardworking parents. Always was, not, I was spoiled in ways, but like hard work was always initiated in my blood, right? So
Yeah. Yeah.
when I left for college, I'm the youngest of three. I said to my dad, I'm gonna go for business entrepreneurship, and when I come
Nice.
out of school, I'm gonna join the business, right? And
Yeah.
this was like I'm in the midst of the '08 financial crisis, but at 18 years old, 17 years old, going into college, I was 18, 19 actually.
Yeah.
Going into college, like you don't realize money at that point, really. I mean, some 19-year-olds today do, but at that point, I was kind of like familiar, but I wasn't really sure. Like I knew what was going on in the economy was bad. I didn't really know exactly like the depths of it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I went away to school for 4 years, and my parents made sure that I had a good 4 years in college. But I do remember making calls back home, during the time, and things were tough during that time,
Yeah.
and so coming out of school, I joined in 2013 in May. I graduated, and I like literally came right into the business.
Wow.
Hindsight, I wish I would have gone maybe and gotten a job somewhere just to learn from other people besides my parents, because there's only so much your parents could teach you,
Sure.
And at that point, they're like, my dad's in his young 60s. I'm this 22-year-old, 23-year-old punk who thinks he knows everything.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I know the feeling.
you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
no, like that's just like typical father-son deal, right? And so, but anyways, I learned from them. I hit the road. I traveled the country door to door. I did it the old school way, right? I did it the way my dad did it. 2 weeks out of the month, I have a leather book somewhere here with all my notes in it from traveling the road. All the customer lists with the dates and the appointments. Old school, not even a cell phone. I still have a hard time using my cell phone for calendars today, right?
Mm.
It's everything was always written down, right?
Yeah.
That was kind of like my start in the business. And over time you build confidence, you build friends, you build networks. And then as of 2017, I kind of slowed down on the road because I was like, you know what? This worked for my dad. I don't see this really being the way of the industry today. Like back in the day, my dad would go into 10 stores in a day and you would be able to sell 80% of the doors. You come home and have a good day. Listen, you're not selling $20,000, $30,000 per door, but even if it was $1,000 a door and you did $8,000 in a day, whatever the numbers worked out to be, it could have been
Right.
5,000. It
Yeah.
was a good day of work back in the 80s. That's a lot of money. But so I was looking at like my results on the road. I mean, a lot of sales reps that are out there today are really old. Like
Oh no, I know. I
not
bet
gonna
like
sugarcoat
I
it.
grew
So
up in my mom's store and I know all the guys that came in. I love them. I love them. It's so
great
fun.
people.
Yeah.
Great. But that's what they know. That's what they've been doing for 40, 50, 60 years in some cases.
Yeah.
And God bless them. Honestly, like it's amazing. It's a part of the industry that I don't think will ever remain the same going forward. But
Yeah.
anyways, as of 2017, I slowed down on the road. I got a little bit more sophisticated with, social media. And if you follow any of my social media, like everything is business, right? The only thing that I'll mess around on is like my personal Instagram. But that's all car stuff, which is my hobby, which tends to be like a side business for fun for me, right? So like
Yeah.
even there, I limit what I put out there, right? Like I limit any sort of world reviews. I limit any sort of family stuff, like nothing.
Politics, yeah, stuff like that, religion, all that stuff just stays out of
Yeah,
it.
I
Yeah.
keep it off because everything that I'm doing is in some capacity making me money for my brand or for myself, right?
Yeah. You were saying about how 2017 came around and you realized that the way that all these old school sales reps are getting their accounts is by going door to door. But for you, you were looking at your numbers, realizing that you had to
Makes
shift
sense.
in a different way.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. Today it's probably $2,000 a week. Back then it was like $1,200, $1,500 a week on the road, food, hotel, gas, this. I mean, and then I'm away from my family, and if I want to have kids, I'm going to miss out on the kids. And like, what is this? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
there was a lot of aha moments where I was like, oh, hey, there's internet, there's social media, Facebook Facebook's been around now for 15, going on 20 years.
Yeah, maybe
20,
even
yeah,
more.
almost
I
20
think
years.
2007 or yeah.
2007, but only like 2006 to 2017, Facebook was still trying to find its place in the world of business. And so groups started showing up, IGO started building their jewelers helping jewelers, all these different networking opportunities that have always existed in the industry, but never on a centralized social media platform came
Yeah.
about. Okay, this is great. Now I
Yeah.
can get my name out there. Now I can get my brand out there with a couple clicks of a button, fraction of the cost, and it kind of worked.
Yeah.
And, and then simultaneously, I met a lot more people inside the diamond trade that, maybe are 10 or 15 years ahead of me that became mentors, that have, businesses that are, highly successful in different ways than what we do. They do different things, but, enough information to teach me things and introduce me to more people and, establish, the supply chain of diamonds is a very fascinating world, like it there's the primary market, there's a secondary market, you have access to both, there's different people with different goods, you can't own everything. It's a very finicky world. So that level, this network that I built out just built more confidence, allowed me to buy more inventory,
Wow.
build more things, and just kind of grow the business.
Yeah. I mean, so I'd love to hear about some of those mentors and some of the lessons that you learned because I think, I've got mentors in a lot of different areas in what I do. And there are some like key pivotal moments or key pivotal things that they've told me or taught me in challenging times in my life where I've gone, oh man, if only I would thought of that earlier, or if I'd listened to your advice earlier, then I wouldn't be where I am right now. But I would love to kind of go back a little bit because so it sounds like we're basically up to present day at this point. Where
Yeah,
you
I
guys seem
bounced.
to,
Sorry. Bounced
yeah,
around.
no, you guys seem to be growing the business, and you're doing a lot. I see you at the shows, and so you're still attending, you're still in person. You definitely built up a ton of a great reputation by being in person with people before you went digital. Do you think that was a piece of like? Do you feel like so someone that's like just getting started? Do you feel like they should still do those old school things, or should they
Yes.
just skip over them entirely?
So we're in a relationship business.
Hmm.
Obviously, a lot of jewelers like to drink at the bar. Not everybody's a drinker, but there's
Hmm.
opportunities to be at events, educational events, seminars, whatever it might be that makes you tick. I used to do all the golf outings at all these different events. If there's a golf outing, I'm there. I suck at golf, but I'm good enough to get through, and I'm definitely all right on the 19th hole. So it's always a good time and meeting people. You know what I mean? Like that's where I've met a lot of longtime friends over the last 10 years. It's just
Cool.
hanging out on the golf course, not
Yeah.
even selling product.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a big part of that I would recommend is, it's very important.
Definitely. I'd love to hit on just as you were growing this business, one thing that I find, fascinating about you that I can relate to is that it's originally your parents' business, right? The jewelry industry isn't something that it was chosen before you were born, is that right?
Yeah, I grew up in it. Yeah,
Yeah,
same.
so same with me. And so I know that, I've talked to a lot of people our age or younger who feel like, maybe this is my parents' business. This is their thing. This is their passion. When do you feel like it started to change for you? Like, was there a moment or like a crisis where you went, you know what? No, this is mine. I'm owning this and I'm passionate about this and I love this. Was there something that happened or a time where that was apparent to you?
Yeah, 2000, 2000, 2018. There was I'm not going to name the store per se, but there was a leading up for about 3 years with this individual store where I would go in and there was this brownish pink diamond sitting in the case. It was like a carat and a half. A nice stone. It was a really nice stone.
Okay.
Bought it off the street, off this lady, had it in like a temp mounting. I'm like, hey, I'm not going to name names. I was like, I'm just gonna say Craig. Craig, you're not gonna sell this diamond the way this is. Well, I don't know. I'm gonna do something. I don't know what to do with it. Blah blah blah. So after like 3 years, literally of going into the store and seeing this nice diamond there, I said to him, I was like, listen, why don't you just tell me what why don't you memo me the stone and let me mount the stone and let me try to sell it. I said, or what we ended up doing, I said, why don't you tell me what your costs are? And I'll tell you what I can sell it for. I'll write you a check for half your cost. You write me a check for half the cost for the mounting. We partner 50-50 on this whole deal and get it photographed, get it videoed, blah, blah, blah. Do everything that you do with a nice piece of jewelry. And
Yeah.
let me, so he said, fine. We did it. I mounted it. I went to like my first diamond event for the Christmas season. It was like October. I think I made the ring in September. Went to the store. It was about this time of the year that I finished the ring. I go to the event in October, and it's a massive event. And some lady comes on, and it's like, oh my God, I love pink diamonds. I'm like, well, I have this gorgeous carat and a half pink diamond ring. And it like, the way we mounted it, it spread like a 3 or 4 carat diamond. It wasn't, it was a spready stone. It wasn't like a deep stone. So it had a huge look to it. Puts it on, melted in her, melted, and I'm gonna buy it. So
Wow.
within 6 weeks, I took a diamond from a store that was sitting on it for 3 years, didn't know what to do with it, had money tied up. I mean, listen, a lot of times these things take a lot of time to sell. Not everybody wants to spend over $100,000 on a pink diamond, but
Yeah.
in this case, it was just kind of like a really lucky, scenario. You work for your luck, right? It was like one of those scenarios that was like, I can do this. Look at
Yeah.
this. And from that point on, that's 5 years in the business. You take your first 5 years, I was grinding sales and learning and meeting, and then all of a sudden you're like, okay, I can do this, and you do it, and then you're like, all right, now I really can do it, right? I got
Wow.
it. And so it was like this progression of constant growth and opportunity that you work for, and it works. And then all of a sudden, COVID hit, which everyone knows what happened during COVID with our industry. I mean, the last 4 or 5 years have just been tremendous.
Hmm.
Even this year has been a tough year for the industry, but we've been pretty blessed with sustaining some level of growth. I know the retail sector is doing well, but on the wholesale side, it's been a little bit different. But we've been doing phenomenally, and it's because I was able to develop product over the last 5 years and try to change the product offerings that we're doing and go a little higher end. We did, and it's working. Every store out there has a level of interest in trying to grow their sales as well, right? So everybody that's involved in this whole team effort, because it takes a village for this industry to work, is
Yeah.
is wanting what we're trying to do. You know what I mean? So this whole everything has been like one big aha, I got this. This is really cool. And then
Yeah.
of course you meet people along the way, you make large transactions with them, you have a good time with them at the trade shows, again, the face to face, have
Yeah.
a couple drinks, have a good time, and then you just become good friends with everybody, and
Yeah.
and you're making money together. It's just such a beautiful industry. It really
Yeah.
is. And
It is.
not every day is beautiful, but overall it's amazing.
Yeah, we've all had our ups and downs, and
Yeah.
we've seen our ups and downs, especially you and I having grown up in this, seeing our parents go through it, and you get to see behind the scenes, and I know a lot of jewelers that are going to
Yeah.
listen to this are thinking, well, hey, I'm not in a great spot right now. I mean, hey, I'd love to hear. I'll get into like, hey, what would you say to someone in a challenging spot that, hey, you know what? I'll just ask you that right now. Someone's, listening to this right now, they hear you, they say, oh man, he's been in the industry for such a long time. He grew up in it and he's he's got all this knowledge and he's put in all of this work. But for me, I'm just not seeing it pan out. I'm just not seeing the success come. I'm not selling the diamonds like I want to. I'm not getting the clients that I'm really interested in. What would you say to that person? Like they're standing right in front of you. What would you tell them?
So growing up around the industry and being in the industry now for 11 years, I mean, my father has been robbed for almost $1 million on the road before, right?
Holy cow.
There's a lot of money back in the day, right? Back in the 90s, still a lot of money.
Oh yeah.
Um, there's things that happen, right? You have economical situations, COVID, they shut down retail, right? Like crazy stuff, right? '08, everyone was upside down in '08.
Mhm.
Most people at least. And listen, on a day to day, you just got to look at what your business is doing. Check your attitude, check what your energy levels are. Like you said earlier, high positive energy. Because, like, again, we're selling we're selling celebration, right? This, like I said earlier, like if you're having a bad day, just leave, come back tomorrow with a fresh mind, clear your mind, and just start, even if it's like for me, I enjoy photoshopping. I like marketing, right? So like I can segue some of my energy in that area. So like if I'm not actually producing sales right now, because the diamond industry's soft or whatever the time of the year is, people aren't buying jewelry or whatever it looks like. I'll just channel my energy there, right?
Mm.
Maybe in 2 months or 1 month or 1 week, somebody's picking that energy up from a
Yeah.
month ago. Like, oh, I love that post. I love that piece of jewelry. And then all of a sudden it stimulates success. I mean, if you're a bridal store, I mean, you should be putting out love letters and love stories all the time, every day. Any client that's getting out there, getting engaged, you should be sharing those pictures, those
Yeah.
videos. Stores are starting to do that now, and that's I think what we should keep the energy rolling.
Yeah.
Just positive energy, even during economic downturn. People are like, I love what you do. Well, I have some gold to scrap. Now all of a sudden they're giving you another opportunity. So it doesn't always mean you're selling them something, right? Maybe you're buying
Yeah.
something. So
Yeah.
that's my thinking. I mean, on the wholesale side, we have different avenues of making money. It's not like retail where we're getting, people off the street to buy stuff, but there's different ways for us to be creative to hopefully generate, interest.
Yeah. Yeah.
All
And
going.
that reminds me of something I used to think about a lot when I was getting started was everything is a feedback loop, right? So you do this, you do action A, it's going to lead to action B. You do action B, it's going to lead to action C. You do action C, it's going to lead to action D. And then it feeds back into the first action.
Mhm.
And so like as an example, I put a post out there on social media and then someone sees it. And because they see it, they reach out to me. Because they reach out to me, we have an appointment and I sell them. And because of that, I now have a new post that I can create. There's always somewhere in there that you can enter no matter where you are. And I
Right.
think and I think it's like, if what you just reminded me of, and I think it was super insightful, is like you create the opportunity for yourself. And kind of like you said before, you create your own luck. And
Yeah.
there's a place in that loop, kind of define the loop for yourself and then and uh and then figure out, okay, where do
Oh
I
yeah,
enter
I mean,
today?
like for a store owner or somebody that's working in a store, it could be going to local charity events or rodeo
Yeah.
club or whatever your interest might be that allow you to expand that energy into. And those spheres of areas that you're pushing yourself into will give back.
Yeah. Awesome. Hey, so going back to Pancis Gems and that venture, I think it would be awesome for people to hear a little bit more about, what is it that you guys do? What's your unique angle on the market? So like what is it that Pancis does to differentiate you? Because, I see you guys at IJO. I know you're an RJO. I know that you guys have been in this industry for a long time. So what do you do to differentiate yourself from your competitors out there, other people that are out there?
We focus on color diamonds, we
Yeah.
focus on quality, we focus on service, and we focus on true partnerships. Those are our core values to what we do.
Yeah.
Um, I don't need to be the cheapest guy in the room. That's not my story. There's a lot of guys in the industry that, I got the best price. Okay, yeah, I can compete too. But our biggest thing is the story of the rich history of what we do as a company, the quality that we're going to provide you for your customer, and the education and support that goes behind that transaction. So if you're going to
Yeah.
be selling a $50,000 stone or a $20,000 stone or a $1 million stone, I'm gonna line you up with the same level of high quality education and information on that item so you can have an intelligent delivery to your customer and give them an experience that's going to differentiate you from anyone else in your market.
Wow, so
That's
you really help them with that sales process.
Oh
That sounds
yeah.
all right.
Oh, yeah, the bigger the sale, the bigger the psychology that's involved. And I love psychology. Love it. I love like I will listen to the second I get a call, I try, not always good.
Mhm.
I try and remember all the words that are being spoken to me because from the moment someone gives me a call for something, whether it's a $50,000 stone or a $30,000 diamond, I'm going to record in my brain the words that you are saying to me. And in my brain, I'll rethink about a conversation and I will pinpoint keywords of a sentence that allows me to kind of read into the situation, whether it's going to be a real sale, whether it's not going to be a real sale, and what that content might be. I can use it against you later on when you make a sale and you try to call me back and negotiate it. I will, business is business, right? But
Yeah.
that's where my brain function goes. I love that stuff. I love
It's
it.
a game. It's a game for you.
It's a game. It's a game. And at the end of the day, the game is celebratory, right?
Yeah.
Everyone involved is getting something from it.
Mhm.
And so yeah, I have a lot of fun with that.
That's
Definitely.
awesome. Um, I think, it'd be really cool to hear about because you
The
talked about,
opposite, sorry to cut you off. It's the opposite of commoditizing an industry,
yeah,
like product in our industry. A lot of people commoditize everything. I don't want to commoditize. Okay, I can give you 5 yellow diamonds of 5 carats, but I'm going to explain to you what makes each of them a little different from the other. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah, because you're right. And that's back when I started marketing for jewelry businesses. I remember distinctly this one conversation I had with a guy in a strip mall. This was years ago now, and I was talking to him about how to market his business, and he goes, "Well, why would someone buy from me?" He asked me this. He said, "Why would someone buy from me when they can get the exact same thing a couple doors down couple doors down in the same mall?" And I was like, I hear that, you hear that, and we're probably thinking the same thing. That's a mindset issue. It has nothing to do with the product that you have. The
Right.
product is fine. Their product is fine. Your product is fine, and it's you making it a commodity is a choice.
Yeah.
Um,
The worst thing that salespeople have is that they don't realize what they're doing for their success.
Want to go into that more? What do you mean?
So when you have a successful transaction, a successful sale, most people don't actually pay attention to the details of what makes the transaction possible,
Oh,
right?
okay. Yeah. Yep.
Like the mechanics that go behind it. They just think, oh, I just made a cool sale, right?
Yeah.
And they move on and they're like, oh, I'm not selling. Well, well, remember what you have to remember what's causing a successful transaction. Positive energy is something, relatability is something. All these things that we're talking about are mechanics to making a sale, right?
Yeah.
But most people don't pay attention to that. They just become robots in what they do because that's what they do. I'm a sales guy, right?
Yeah.
And then when shit hits the fan, excuse my language, and the economy maybe not be doing so well, and there's less consumer spending, and instead of selling $100,000 diamond a couple of times a month, you might be selling $50,000 diamonds or 10,000 versus five, whatever the number breakdown is, right? You have to remember what is allowing the 100,000 and put the same energy in no matter what, even if it allows you a $5,000 transaction.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really insightful. In marketing, we call that attribution, and there's a lot of stuff you can track digitally to see, okay, what was it that led a person to but what are the exact steps that they took in order to become a paying client for me? Or in our case, have an appointment, say for an engagement ring or whatever. But you're right, if you don't have a track record of what was it that I was doing before, if you don't know what it is that brought you success and before, you don't know what to replicate. And you can't do more of that action that's going to end up bringing that thing back. And so, like you said, the energy, the attitude that you
Yeah,
bring.
so I just had a $250,000 sale not go through this week, right?
Okay.
Those are coming back this week. But we've sold the store and I have sold the customer already this year, into the six figures. So we know that this customer is viable. We know that we can make another transaction. We obviously wanted to make a transaction this week, right?
Yeah.
But there's things that happen in the guy's life in the last 6 months that's changed, right? We have a presidential election that is quote unquote scary to him.
Yeah.
And we have also a house purchase involved, right? He just bought a new mansion for him and
Nice.
his family, right?
Sweet.
So, okay, so clearly he might have cash on the side, but clearly he wants to be conservative right now at this very moment.
Yeah.
So when the store owner called me, he said, I wish I could just, fly out and have a couple drinks with you rather than paying all this money in shipping with a check for the stone. It's like, well, listen, it's all good. We can recircle back to this guy in a couple months, wait till after the election. Maybe we go back to him in March next year because he purchased in March this year. So maybe March is a good time of the year for him financially where whatever investments he has, maybe that's where his best cash flow is. Everyone
Yeah.
functions differently and cycles differently. So like these are some of the immediate things that I put out there after a negative event just to turn it positive and hopeful for, going forward. And that energy, like you said, like we were talking about, just continues to snowball and
Yeah.
come back to you. And that's kind of how I roll.
Yeah. That's
And
amazing.
remembering to do that because it's hard.
It is. Because you
Everyone,
have a whole list, a whole Rolodex. You got all these clients and all their different, positions on things. And
I have
yep.
a whiteboard here I keep leads on. I also have Google to remind me, like,
Mhm.
somebody last year was like, oh, remind me in a year to tell you a story. I'm like, okay, Google, and then all of a sudden a year later, well, like Google just went off. All of a sudden a year later, that reminder comes up and you're like, oh, hey, remember that story a year ago? Like, tell me
Yeah.
what's going on. So then it's like you can consume all this information to help teach yourself, whatever it
That's
is
cool.
for your
That's
business.
clienteling, right? I mean, that's
Yeah.
what it is that people are up to. What you should be like when you should be reaching back out and having a plan for it.
Yeah. What information are you willing to provide me when I'll be there?
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, hopefully you guys get that sale. Maybe I'll have you back on and I'll be like, all right, what's it like to you've been through this whole journey and you sold the $250,000 diamond with this guy.
Yeah.
I'd love to touch on what you think about the future of the industry and where you think it's going. You're bought in. You're super young. You got two little kids now that you're going to be providing for them. You've got some great priorities. So when you look forward in, say 5, 10 years, and you are looking at how are we going to be successful? How am I going to help retailers to be successful? What do you see happening in the industry? What do you think people should be aware of?
I mean, I'm gonna remain optimistic. I have always doubts, right? Everyone always can go straight to the negative and the doubts and the changes and it's getting tough and it's getting this. I think the industry will always evolve. People will go in and out of business. I think that at this point in the game, retail stores that have existed this long and have stayed in the game through COVID, through the financial crisis, whatever it is that's being thrown at them, I
Yeah,
think I think there's a lot of opportunity in the next 5, 10 years. I mean, I'm even working on something completely outside the industry where the guy's like ready to retire. Like, well, there's a lot of stores closing because there's no one that wants to take them up.
yeah,
It's a very sad deal.
hmm
So if organizations like IGO or IJO or other buying organizations, CBG, whatever organizations out there, JCK,
yeah, yeah,
whatever
yeah,
it is, I'm just throwing this out there. It's probably better that it's like a small group like IGO or RGO because it's more personable of an industry. But like if there could be a list of registered stores that don't have somebody taking them over, like there should be an opportunity within these groups for people to get together to keep that door in business because that business has been
I
there
love
for
that.
years, 100 years, 200 years, whatever the number is, there's an
Yeah,
established brand there. So as an investor, I would say, yeah, I'll throw in 100 grand or whatever the numbers are and say, yeah, let's buy this store out. And even if it's like a conglomerate of jewelers that are in an IGO group or RGO group that want to get together to consume this store and retire them out instead of closing the door, it might be better for the industry going forward. And it
yeah.
also allows opportunity for younger hands to get involved in keeping that door open. You see what I'm
That's a
saying?
that's amazing. I've had that exact conversation with my team. I've said, look, people are leaving the industry all the time, and
All the time.
because they work super hard for 30, 40, 50 years, and they're done. Hey, good.
And nobody wants to buy it.
No one
Listen,
wants to.
no,
Most people
listen.
want to buy
I
any
don't
jewelry.
even. I listen. Even like my parents, they want to retire in a couple of years. Like I don't want to go to the bank and say, yeah, give me a loan for X millions of dollars so I can buy them out. No, here's a buyout plan for the next X amount of years of your life. I'll write you a check every month. If you want to work for another few years, great. Happy
Yeah,
to have you. And like this type of structure can function everywhere. You know what I
yeah.
mean? Even like a store is even a better scenario than a wholesaler. Like
Oh yeah,
we're gonna do a retirement sale. You call in one of the Wilkersons or Charles Frey's or any of these companies out there that do these events, and all of a sudden you raise, I don't know, $1 million over the course of 3 months. Well, here's $1 million. Close the door, walk away. We'll pay you more if you want, if you need it, or we'll put your car on a lease through the business. You got your car taken care. Whatever it is, keep the door open.
Yeah.
and allow younger blood to come in, and even maybe there's a program that these organizations put together that say, okay, yeah, we're going to consume this store, keep it open, and level it out, get the owners out, and then have an opportunity for other jewelers to say, yeah, I want to buy that store from you.
I
Maybe
love
it's
that.
maybe it's IGO that buys the store,
I
or
love that.
right?
Yeah.
Argo has a foundation for education. Well, maybe they should have a foundation for buying out stores that want to retire after they're going out, after their GOB or retirement sale. Let them get their cash out initially, and then make it a sweeter deal for an organization to come in and say, "Yeah, let me consume it for pennies on the
Yeah.
dollar," because that's essentially what's going to need to happen.
Yeah. Because so where I live, there's a store that was open for 48 years. Really, on island, he was the only like full service jeweler that existed. And so everyone knew about him and everyone said his name. And if you thought of a jeweler, it was him who you would think about. And I'm good friends with the guy. I talked to them a lot before he retired. He's in the business for 48 years and he's just tired. He's just I'm done with this industry. I've been doing this for way too long.
Yeah.
So he leaves, he retires his business. And then there's this huge gap in the industry, in the market. And that gap could easily be filled in by someone who just has ambition and has the desire to solve the problems for the people that no longer have a place to have their problems solved is really all that it is.
So go back to the buying group organization concept, right? Like he does like a retirement sale, he cashes out, I don't
Yeah,
know, $1 million, whatever it is in his small town.
yeah,
And they come in and say, all right, we'll take over the deed of this deal and take over the business. Now it's in the name of IGO or
yeah,
RGO. Just gonna put buying group in there. And then there's a platform, young jewelers that want to relocate to such and such city in Hawaii. Here's an opportunity to buy this store. We'll structure the deal for you. Pay us out $25,000 a year, $50,000 a year for the next 10 years, or whatever the valuation is.
yeah,
I'm assuming it's a small town, so it's probably going to be like $1 million type of store based on what you're saying. But whatever that looks like, and then all of a sudden you're not now you're building a network of people for GIA, for education, and further development in the career, and then a path forward to say, here's your own store opportunity if you want to really relocate here. I mean, people are always relocating for
oh
jobs.
yeah,
Why not relocate for a business?
yeah. And the opportunity,
Here's an established business that's
yeah.
doing $1 million a year. Here you go.
You get the customer list. GemTek comes in. We do the marketing, so you guys are just killing it right off the bat. Next thing you know, I mean, so that's kind of where
And Pancis could be on an advisory board with these groups. I'm putting this out there in the atmosphere. Like, I love this idea. I would be all over this every day if somebody said, "Hey, Kyle, I want to retire. Can we put a plan together?" I know that there's the edge software and all this infrastructure in place through the buying groups already, but like I think it's a huge value add for these buying groups to do something like this
Oh yeah.
because there's a demand for this. There's a demand. Even a jeweler in Florida that wants to buy a second location in Hawaii. Like, here's an opportunity for you to do that. It doesn't have to be, a new GIA graduate or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think you're hitting on something that's really cool. I hope some people hear this.
It's a pain point of the industry, and like I said, I don't think the industry is going anywhere. I think the young people that are our age have always surprised the trends. Oh, millennials having a hard time
Yeah.
buying houses. Millennials are not having kids. Well, here we are. And
Yeah.
millennials are spending more than boomers. We're buying houses. We're having kids. Okay, so that means in 20 years from now, when our kids are out of the house, I'm sure there's going to be a large population of our generation that's going to have discretionary income, and they're going to still go to a retail store and say, "Oh, I want to buy that diamond. That's really pretty. I
Yeah.
want to buy my wife something special." Okay, we joke in the industry, like, how old is she when she buys this diamond, right? Like, because it's always an old person buying this, $100,000 diamond.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But like, it doesn't always have to be that way. And I think the guys that are our age now are gonna make it, and they're gonna spend their money, and I'm hopeful that the industry continues to exist.
Yeah.
Lab business, I don't know what that does in the next 2 years. Maybe it nosedives even more than it has. I don't know. It's not my role in the industry.
Yeah.
But again, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, it was Moissanite, right? And then it was Pandora beads during
Yeah.
08.
Yeah.
All these stores buying Pandora beads. Like, what are you doing selling Pandora beads? Well, at the time, that's what kept the industry going, right?
Mhm. And then it's permanent jewelry, and yeah, there's always a new trend.
There's always a cycle, there's always a trend, there's always a fad, and I think the core of the business will always remain.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at Tiffany, Harry Winston, look at the classic Cartier, you look at the classics and you look at what it is that they sell. There's some of them, more like Cartier Bulgari, they'll sell a lot of their own lines, but like the Tiffany, I actually just bought this book on Tiffany and his whole history and story. It's really fascinating. But they've existed and thrived through all of the downturns in the economy. And yeah, sure, they do random stuff, that they sell as well. But the bulk of their sales are going to be from, the tried and true, the bread and butters. And that's always going to exist. If I'm looking to start a new business, a new jewelry business, I would way rather come in and have a list of customers and have the previous owner say, "Hey, I trust this new owner to take care of you guys." Oh my gosh. Like, I don't think people realize just how valuable something like that would be and how quickly that would catapult you to success, versus trying to build it all on your own, which is much, much more difficult. Yeah, that's awesome. That's cool. Yeah, we should talk more about that at some point.
I love this stuff. This is great. I appreciate you
Yeah.
doing it.
We've literally talked about that in our team meeting,
All
saying
these
that
things, all these things go through my brain at night or something. Like, I don't know, I'm taking a shower and like you think about this, you're like,
that's when it happens. Yeah,
yeah, like when you have like, or I go for a walk at night or in the morning and my brain's just turning ideas,
yeah.
'cause you're always thinking, as a business owner or
Mhm.
entrepreneur, whatever you want to call yourself, And so yeah, that was always one of my ideas. Like, that was like always
Cool.
one of my ahas. Like, that's a cool one, you know,
Dude, it is. It is. It's great because you're right. There's a huge opportunity there. My thought was like,
massive,
yeah,
massive.
yeah, I've got other thoughts about it that we've discussed about how we would go about executing on that. So we should have a conversation outside of this
It's
to
almost like you and I should just call a bunch of people with money and say, all right, let's put a fund together for $20 million, whatever that looks like, right?
yeah.
We go to a couple investors and say, all right, I want to put a fund together for $20 million to buy out stores. And there's an ROI on that money, right?
Mhm.
Okay, buy out a store and then you resell it, right? And then all
Yeah.
of a sudden,
Or maybe there's a plan, like so, my thought is, let's say a store's not quite ready. Like, you look at their books, you look at their numbers, you look at the way they're structuring their profitability, everything. And it needs some work, right? It needs some business structure, but you see a gigantic opportunity, right? There's no competition around them. They have a big client list. They're doing decent revenue every single year. If you can, spend a year or two restructuring the business to make it more attractive, right? You go through a program with this jeweler. They say, "I'm going to retire in a couple of years." You say,
right.
"Get on the program. We're going to help you to restructure your business systems." And then this group will come in because they will agree to buy your business if it hits these marks of profitability, say these numbers and everything. Um,
I mean, from a buying group perspective, whether it's RGO, IGO, whatever it is, I keep saying that, but it's
Yeah,
true.
yeah, yeah, I know. Because you're in the.
The the idea of just bringing in new vendors, trying to sell more product and new this and new that, like the cycle is always trending and always switching and always doing, right? And then like you're living in a world where things are becoming more transparent. Let's be real,
Mhm.
right? Like
Yeah.
I don't like a lot of jewelers may not need these buying groups. Like that's a thing.
Yep.
Now, there is an element to what is good about them. They do bring value add to the industry, whether it's education, a couple of years, a couple of times a year you do a convention to see the latest and greatest trends, see your friends, learn, ask questions, whatever. Those are some valuable things and attributes that have allowed a lot of stores to go from a $500,000 door to a $2 million door, right? I'm not discrediting that stuff. But
Yep.
as the world becomes more transparent in the world of internet and doing business, they need to find other ways to add value. And I think this topic right here, when you talk about the future of the industry and you talk about the future of buying groups, whatever that is, that is huge. Very
Yeah.
huge. I hope this content gets out there to the right ears because I think there's something here. And like I said, I'd be glad to head it up and be part of any sounding board or advisory board or whatever that might look like because I think it's crucial. And I love helping people. I really do.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you can just tell as soon as you start talking. If you're listening to this and you've met Kyle in person, that's 100% true. Just you leave feeling better than when you came. And we're kind of winding down here, but I'd love to hear some stuff about your personal and your business philosophy. What does success? You have a unique perspective on this. Most of the people that are listening to this are they own their own jewelry businesses. They're retailers for the most part. They're not vendors. You're a vendor, which is awesome. But business is business, right? There's always there's so much that transfers over. And I just want to know, like, in your mind, with your life, whether it's jewelry business or other, what does success mean to you in the context of your career?
Making you happy.
Wow. Okay.
Money doesn't make you happy.
Hmm.
It's the vehicles that you put in place to allow success for you, others around you, that make whatever it is that makes you happy. That's the most crucial thing. I learned that the last 5 years, right? I've had some bang up years the last 5 years. Everybody did. And there were still like, you're like, okay, I have all that, like, thank God, right? Like, I'm just gonna be transparent a little bit. Like, I made a lot of money in 1 month, right? Like, whatever that amount could be.
Yeah.
Like, put a number on it. But let's say I made a lot of money. Let's say I made $100,000 in a month, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, I made a lot of money this month.
Yeah.
The problems that exist in your life could still exist in your life. So it's not the money that's going to make you happy. It's making making sure that you understand what your problems are, solving them, and figuring out what makes you happy along that way. And whether that's the people you surround yourself with and friends, mentorships, like, these are things that I found, to be important in my life.
Yeah.
And communication with your wife or your family members or your business partners or your sales associates that work for you or whatever it looks like. That's the key thing. Just being an honest, good person, do the right thing. Because at the end of the day, that's what makes me happy. And that's what I have to say to that.
It almost sounds like what you're saying is the career. It's not that the career is a means to an end. It's not a means to making you
No,
happy, but
no. And
it's
you can do the same thing in
yeah,
other areas, other businesses,
yeah.
have the same success.
It almost sounds like what you're saying is, it's how you run the business itself that generates the happiness, not
Yeah,
not how it produces. Essentially, what you're trying to say is, like, whether it produces cash flow or not for you, like, really, huge months for you or not,
right.
the way that you go about that journey,
The
it's
day-to-day grind, the
Mhm.
day-to-day outlook, right?
Yeah, yeah. That's powerful. That's great. And then last, what legacy do you hope to leave behind? You're going to be here. You're going to be in the industry for who knows how long. And when people think of Kyle Pancis, they think, oh man, I met Kyle back when he was, young and was. I remember meeting him at the shows and everything. What do you want people to be to? What legacy do you want to leave behind for the jewelry industry as a whole?
I think some of what you mentioned earlier is a big thing for me. And I know that people know me for quality and very nice diamonds and color diamonds. Like, the
Yeah.
things that people already know me for is kind of where I want my legacy to be, because that's where my father built the business. That's where he had success, and that's where I was able to pick up and take it to another level, right? And so that's where I want to see my legacy be. I'm a fun, energized guy that made money with people and always had a good time and genuine. Like, that's what I want to be remembered for.
All right, now I just got one more question for you, and it's for the jewelers out there who they hear your story, they hear what you're talking about, they're excited, they want to sell more colored diamonds because colored diamonds are awesome. They hear the numbers you're talking about, and they go, "That sounds like a dream, like a pipe dream for me." But who am I? Who the heck am I? How am I supposed to do this? Like, do I really have a market for this? Is this really possible for me? So, what would you say? Someone is excited, they like the information that you're bringing, but they don't know how to even get started with selling colored diamonds. What would you say to
Okay,
them?
so first things first. When I started out 10 years ago or 11 years ago, all I ever wanted to do was sell. I remember making my first $20,000 transaction. And I
Nice.
remember making my first $100,000 transaction, right? So you have to start somewhere, right? If you want to make a $10,000 transaction, let's start focusing on that. You have to will that into your life. It's
Hmm.
just not going to happen. You have to will it. You're like, I want to make a $300,000 sale. I know people that make seven-figure sales personally. I haven't made one single transaction 7 figures yet personally. I've done 7 figures over the course of three diamonds with one customer. That's 7 figures, but not one diamond, one transaction, 7 figures.
Yeah.
I want to get there. I'm going to will that in existence, right? I'm going to work towards that whatever sophistication is that I need, education, mentorship, whatever that looks like. So if you want to sell a diamond, whether it's color diamond, white diamond, whatever it is, if you want to make a target for yourself, you have to literally will that into existence. You have to put your focus around it. You have to promote it. You have to put it in your showcase. You have to put it on your finger, whether it's consigned to you or bought, whatever that looks like. You have to literally will that materialism in. You have to will that into your life.
Yeah.
And that's how I can say, like, if you want to sell a color diamond and you say, oh, I don't have any customers for it, well, then don't start with the $20,000 diamond. Maybe start with a $5,000 ring, something that somebody can understand and still spend as a discretionary income. Maybe it's $1,500. Maybe it's just a pendant, whatever that is. $1,500. You just sold a color diamond. Wow. I understood what the mechanics were of that. Pretty basic, I think, in my opinion. How do I continue to uptrend that sale? How do I go to a 5,000? How do I go to a 20,000? How do I go to $1 million? What's that look like?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, well, you will soon.
I'm gonna hopefully find out soon. But at this point in the game, that's from my experience.
Yeah.
For anyone out there that's looking to do greater things for themselves in their business in the jewelry world.
That's awesome. And so let's say they do want help. They're like, I want to get started. I want to sell the $5,000, the $10,000 diamond.
Contact me. I can give you my cell phone number here. It's 973-800-3717. Or you can email me info@gemsbypancis.com.
Pancis. How do you spell Pancis?
Pancis.
Awesome. So info@gemsbypancis.com. That'd be great. So yeah, if you guys are looking to sell more colored stones and you want someone who's done it, whose family has done this for a very long time, and they know how to handle buyers, they know how to talk with them, and you want a guy who's really going to be there to help you out, then hey, Kyle Pancis, he's a jeweler that you should know. And
also if you register on the website too, we have I put together not only PowerPoint presentations that are PDF PowerPoint that are downloadable, but there's also some AI videos that I put together with some education. So
nice.
There's already automatic structure put in place for you to just tease yourself with and go from there.
That's awesome. What's that website?
GemsByPancis.com.
There we go. All right, awesome, sweet. So you can check out gemsbypancis.com or email info@gemsbypancis.com if you want more info or you want to get started with your first big colored diamond sale or small colored diamond sale, whatever. Just get your first one under your belt. Yeah, it doesn't have to be big, but it's fun either way. Anyway, Kyle, such a pleasure having you on. Seriously, just glad to be friends with you. Glad to know you.
Yeah, likewise.
And, yeah. Thank you so much for joining today's discussion. To learn more about our guest, you can find their information in the show notes. If you enjoy learning about the jewelry industry and what we're doing here, you can subscribe to our channel on YouTube at my personal YouTube channel, Robbie Haddad. ROBBIEHADDAD. And for a limited time, you can get a free copy of our new book, the Jewelry Marketing Blue Book. It is a definitive guide to growing your jewelry business, your local jewelry business with new and repeat customers. It's a free, no-cost way to support us and grow your local jewelry business at the same time. And you can do that one proven step at a time using that book. So to get that book, simply go to www.gemtek360.com. That's GEMTEK 360.com, and a pop-up will show up and give you the opportunity to put in your information to get that book. If you'd like to make comments or suggest guests to be on our show, leave that information in the comment section of YouTube. We're going to check every single comment, and we'd love to get feedback and the opportunity to improve our show. And if you'd like to learn more about our company and how our company can partner with your jewelry store and help you to grow by significantly increasing your fine jewelry appointments, just go to GemTek360.com. That's GEMTEK 360.com and use the provided links to hop on a call with us. We'd love to talk with you. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.